Welcome back to the House of Commentary, and tonight we're covering real-time news for the first time.
And it's exciting.
Guess what? We have had the most important person in the world lose their job today. Steven Gerrard is no longer the Aston Villa manager.
Truly awful. Truly awful.
It's terrible.
Having said that, he only won about 11 games from 40, so I suppose it was inevitable. It was inevitable, wasn't it?
It's probably still a better winning record than the person who actually lost their job today, Liz Truss. So,
who basically had,
how do you feel? We're Prime Ministerless again.
I must admit, I am genuinely shocked that the lettuce beat the Prime Minister.
The wet lettuce. She's a wet lettuce.
She is. So she couldn't outlast a lettuce. For those who are unaware, there was a live on-stream YouTube video which had a lettuce that had a sell-by date of 10 days. And a couple of days ago, they decided, let's see if the lettuce goes bad before Liz Truss resigns, and the lettuce won.
Yeah,
and won well.
What's funny is that she couldn't beat a lettuce, but she still beat everyone else in the Conservative Party.
Well, that's unfortunate.
It really shows the state of things.
It is incredible, actually.
And now we have to pick between everyone who has technically been beaten by a wet lettuce.
Yeah.
Because they're all being superseded by wet lettuce now.
Having said that, she had to go.
Yeah, should we talk about what went wrong to start with?
Yeah, she had to go. I mean, there's lots of drama behind the scenes of how she got to where she's got to. You can always talk about that, but the last few weeks, it is just incredible. It's incredible that anybody can be, in my opinion, that dumb.
Yeah,
it's actually right. It's just
it really is impressive how much she has unachieved in such a short space of time.
And even with her final speech as Prime Minister, where she talked about her achievements, they weren't actually achievements.
What was she talking about? Her achievements were her failures.
Yeah.
She said we had fixed the energy crisis. I couldn't believe she said that. She's like, electricity's become affordable again. What are you talking about?
Yeah. Her plan of 2 years was reduced to 6 months, and only because there's not enough time to redo and rebuild that whole policy. So they've given it 6 months to give themselves some breathing space to actually come up with a proper policy rather than the absolutely nuts idea that she came up with. But yeah, it's just incredible. I mean, you think when I think about it, the actual election where the Tory members had to vote between Sunak and Mordaunt was actually quite vitriolic. They hated each other basically, and that's
Sunak and Truss, or Sunak and Mordaunt.
Sunak and Truss,
not Mordaunt.
No, Mordaunt. When it was the original sort of, whittled down to two, Mordaunt was the one who was always trying to remind people the cameras are on. Please don't track the Tory party. She was always against his blue on blue attacks. But Sunak and Truss hate each other because
I don't know about that.
In terms of policy, I mean, really,
I think they vehemently disagree. What the right thing is to do.
No, I think it's genuine hatred of that policy. But you can say vehemently disagree, but Liz Truss in a million years was never going to support what Sunak was wanted to do, and Sunak in a million years was never going to support what she wanted to do.
Actually, to give it to Sunak, he was quite honest about what he genuinely thought needed to be done.
Yeah.
Whereas I think if you're honest about what Truss did, she kind of just said what she needed to say to get in Prime Minister.
Yeah. I mean, and now looking back on it, it becomes even more cynical. You think she's even more cynical.
Yeah, and I'll tell you what's terrible. Some people, they say what they need to say to get into the chair. She went and did it.
She actually got away with it.
She actually went and did it. And then she tried to commit and do what she said she was going to say, even though she knew it wasn't going to get her anywhere afterwards.
I know.
It's kind of like, imagine if Boris not Boris. Let's think about another example. Okay, for our foreign listeners, imagine if Donald Trump said what he said when he was running for president, and then he actually tried to do
it all, and actually did get it to the point where it was about to become law, and you couldn't undo it.
Yeah.
And that's how bad it was. That's
how close we were to disaster.
I mean, it's absolutely crazy. When you actually think... the really crazy part of it was that normally when you win an election, there's some magnanimity that you have towards the... you got to be magnanimous in victory, haven't you? You got to think about all the people who didn't vote for you as well as those who did. Truss said, "Screw you."
She really did.
Yeah, and she said, "I'm only going to have my own friends in my cabinet."
Yeah, and all her friends left her.
And well, not so much left her. I think they were left speechless and couldn't say anything because it was that bad.
I think they knew her position was untenable.
Yeah.
I think
they
knew that.
Especially
they probably were fearful even from the beginning that this could be the case. But as soon as they realised everything's going to pot, they had to jump ship. They had no... I mean, I'll tell you what's amazing is the ship was sinking and Jeremy Hunt dived straight in.
Yeah. But
if you took the opportunity.
But if you actually think of... I mean, the way I look at it is that she did a Theresa May. Theresa May, when she became Prime Minister, put all her friends in the cabinet and they were all Remainers, and she was trying to get a Brexit deal. So they were never, ever going to achieve whatever they were trying to achieve because the Conservative Party and the country was never going to...
They're all inherently against what they were doing.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So, and what Truss did was she just copied Theresa May in terms of getting her friends in, thinking that will be sufficient. Getting the people...
Well, they're really her friends. I reckon they're people who are masquerading as friends.
And I think they're all... there must have been a number of people who were there purely because they agreed to support her in her campaign.
I can't imagine Liz Truss and Suella Braverman sitting down having a pint together.
No, but I'm sure that deals were done between some of those people. If you back me, I'll give you a job in cabinet.
Yeah, I think that's what it is. It's a cabinet job, isn't it? And your resume is going to be good because of me.
Yeah, exactly. So I think a lot of that must have gone on because...
And a lot of those people were relatively young people who might be looking at prime ministership in the future.
Maybe, yeah. Some of them maybe. especially, there are a couple...
Especially Suella Braverman,
Jeremy
Jeremy Hunt even, he's still relatively young.
Yeah, but he's not going to become prime minister. He's lost, 3 times now?
Truss, he's got 20 plus years left.
Yeah, that's true.
Remember how old Jeremy Corbyn was when he ran for prime minister?
In his 70s or something, wasn't he?
So you've got lots of time as a politician.
Yeah, he has got time. Well, if you look at other countries around the world...
honestly, if you look at Jeremy Hunt, I'm not a Jeremy Hunt fan, by the way, listeners, but if you look at Jeremy Hunt, the man's got a proper CV now.
Yeah.
Because he'll be forgotten for what rubbish mistakes he made, which are a lot, and he was terrible in all the positions that he's been in. But he's done Health Secretary, and he's done Chancellor of the Exchequer, and those 2 of the biggest jobs.
Yeah,
and I think he's done Transport Minister or something as well.
Maybe.
He's done something else. But he has actually got quite an impressive CV.
He was Foreign Secretary. I think he was Foreign Secretary, yeah. I think he was a Foreign Secretary.
He's done a couple of things.
Yeah.
But he's done some big jobs now.
Yeah. No doubt about that.
If you forget about him now, he's going to be known as a guy who potentially is going to stabilise the economy now. And it's not going to be because of him, it's just because Liz Truss is gone.
Yeah.
So he just has to do nothing. All he has to do is dilly-dally for the next 2 months.
And he'll save the country.
And by which time, maybe the cabinet will be replaced and someone else will come in instead of him. But he'll say that I steady the ship.
Yeah.
And in 20 years' time, when they say who's running for Prime Minister, and Jeremy Hunt puts his hand in the pot, and he says, well, I've already been Chancellor of the Exchequer, and I've been the Health Minister.
Yeah, and I saved the country.
And I'm still here 20 years later.
Yeah. No, I agree. If you actually sort of go back to how this all started, first of all, getting rid of Boris Johnson, okay? Boris Johnson is not a details person, okay? And it's really interesting when people are saying, but he should know. The guy who got him in trouble, there was this, I forgot the guy's name, but he decided to give a job in the cabinet to a guy who had a record of manhandling men, I think. Okay. And then the guy actually did that. He got drunk and did it with a guy, manhandled a guy. and Boris Johnson tried to defend him. Now,
that guy.
Yeah, I forget the guy's name.
I forgot his name as well.
Yeah, exactly. But that
it just shows how many scandals we've been
I
through.
I know. It's terrible, isn't it? But the people who were in charge of the Conservative Party knew what that guy was like. They shouldn't have let him anywhere near Boris
was his
Johnson.
Name?
So he was just set up.
I don't want to say someone's name accidentally.
Yeah, exactly.
In my head, I was thinking like maybe it's like an Andrew Lansley or something. I'm sure that's a real guy.
That's a real guy.
Exactly.
It's not that person. That person, I think that person's an author. But anyway, the point is.
Sorry, Andrew Lansley.
Yeah. The point is that the people in charge of the Conservative Party should have they should keep people like that away from your Prime Minister. How the hell can he remember conversations 4 or 5 years ago? Apparently they said there was a conversation 4 or 5 years ago. How can someone who's having to deal with Ukraine, having to deal with coming out of a pandemic, remember crap like that? Not going to happen. So Boris Johnson was basically let loose because he made a bad mistake, which one could argue.
Well, Boris lied to the country, to be honest, and so much had come out over the space of 5-6 months. Well, he basically just didn't care about rules. This is the problem.
Yeah, but
the public perception of Boris just went completely down the hill.
Yeah, but
no one wanted him in that position.
But anymore. I think part of that is the media as well. There is an element of the media. I'll give you an example. Everyone goes on about the fact that he was fined for breaking the rules. Okay. Rishi Sunak was fined at the same time because he was with him. What happened was somebody put on a surprise birthday party for him. But it wasn't even a birthday party.
So what?
Somebody came in with a surprise birthday cake.
So what?
And because it was
he's the leader of that ship.
But if somebody
he's the leader of number 10.
Hold it 1 second.
Employing people who are going to stick to the rules.
Yeah, but
he's fostered an environment where people think it's okay to do stuff like that.
Okay,
that is the problem.
That's fine. Okay, so he got a fine. A person, he didn't even know it's going to happen. Person walks in with a cake and says happy birthday.
Yeah.
All right, he gets fined. Yet Keir Starmer goes up to the north of England and has pizza and beer with people who are actually not part of it. He shouldn't have been normally having it with. But because it's all a post-party event after a business meeting, it's all okay.
Well, Starmer was investigated and didn't get fined.
But the reason he got away with it, the reason he got away with that is purely because he was able to call it a post-party thing after a meeting, a business meeting, where it just.
Here's the difference.
I'm just saying about.
Here's the difference.
How the media portray these things.
Here's the difference. Starmer's smart enough to know he can get away with it.
Yeah, true.
And if you want someone to be Prime Minister, they need to know how to play the game.
Maybe, yeah.
And if you've got someone who's in number 10,
devious.
If you've got someone who's in number 10 and all his staff, regardless of the fact that someone else might be throwing the party, if the consensus in that building when you're the leader is that we can get away with this stuff,
you'll try.
That in itself is wrong.
No doubt, yeah. And there's no doubt he had to go. I'm not saying that he shouldn't have gone. I'm just saying that he should
have gone way earlier than he did.
Maybe, but the point is that he had to go. So they then have to select somebody, don't they? Yeah. And the selection process. And the selection process.
Well, the first thing is let's just talk about the dominoes that fell. So Boris went, and I think the lead up to Boris leaving was Sadiq. No, not Sadiq. What's his name?
Sajid Javid.
Sajid Javid left as health minister.
Yeah.
And then Rishi Sunak left. Was there anyone else resigning?
Well, before he... No, 53... I'm
talking about from the cabinet.
Yeah, quite a few people from the cabinet resigned. It wasn't just those two. Sajid Javid was the first... I don't know. The people, they were undersecretaries, weren't they? I think they were people...
But the big names
they were junior.
Big names
the biggest names, yeah. Well, you can't get bigger than the...
Patel, did she leave?
No.
She stayed.
Yeah. No, you can't get bigger than the Chancellor.
Yeah. So Sajid Javid and then Rishi Sunak.
And then once that happened, then the domino effect took place. And to be honest, and 50-odd people resigned.
To be honest, Sajid Javid, he'd done it for that government.
He gave a very strong speech.
People don't give him the credit for destroying the Conservative Party, but he is the one who destroyed the Conservative Party because he gives such a good speech.
He did. He gave a good speech.
They couldn't hold government anymore.
Yeah. It became very difficult.
Boris went. Boris went. He kind of said, "I'll hang around."
Vista, baby.
He said, "I'll hang around till you find the next one, and then I'm gone."
Yeah.
And then we had the whole.
In fact, what was really bad
versus Penny Mordaunt versus all these
Grant
lot,
Chapps,
Rishi,
he didn't last long.
Sunak and all these lot.
So basically, the main runners. Well, first of all, I think there were a couple of mistakes that were made with the way they did this thing, because it was going to take like 6-7 weeks to decide who's going to be the next prime minister, and Boris Johnson had to agree not to introduce any legislation during that period. So he basically had his hands tied. So as things were getting worse in the economy, he wasn't allowed to do anything to fix it.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so you have to. So that was stupid. They should have had some kind of agreement.
I'm sure he had some leeway.
No, but
I'm sure he had something he could do.
He literally could not do anything.
They've got little bags of cash stashed everywhere in number 10.
Money that had already been allocated. That is fine, but they couldn't introduce any laws. You couldn't actually do anything quickly.
That's fine.
So I think that was a mistake, because they could have done something about the energy bills straight away rather than wait. Okay, but the point is that when you start looking at first of all, you've got people who no one's ever heard of deciding they want to become prime minister. Do you remember Tugendhat? This is the guy.
Tom Tugg.
Yeah, Tom Tugg. So basically, this is a guy. He's actually a dual national, so he's British and French.
Yeah.
Okay, got both passports. He's never been in any position, and he thought, right, I can reset everything. They're thinking, what the hell?
Just ridiculous.
Yeah.
You know what, guys? This is another thing just to bring up. You need to have a credible name if you want to be prime minister. It's really important. Tom Tugg. Prime Minister Tom Tugg. Mate, get yourself a better name. We literally have the option of changing your name these days.
Maybe you need to.
It's like the Australian guy. That Bill Bailey said, how can you have a prime minister called Kevin? Kevin? You're thinking that if a man walks into the room and he's going to command that room, forget House of Commons, he's going to command a room.
Yeah.
Kevin can't command a bathroom. Kevin?
Yeah. There are some names that just lend themselves to familiarity, and you just cannot see them as being particularly authoritarian. But the point is that so they had to whittle down these people, and so Tugendhat came and then was gone.
Prime Minister Tugendhat. Can you just imagine? I just got to go back to this name thing. The British Prime Minister. It's not a racist thing. Just Prime Minister Tugendhat.
I know. Anyway, so then you got all these wannabes, James Cleverly and Chapps and all these people who had been around, they've been ministers, and basically nobody wanted to vote for them, so they just dropped out straight away. Javid, I think Javid also.
Javid did put his name in the hat.
Yeah, he put
he didn't.
I think he did.
No way.
No, he did. Because Grant Chapps was actually...
what was he thinking?
Yeah, he thought he could become Prime Minister, but he got kicked out. Yeah, in fact, Grant Chapps, I think, was actually his...
He's a military guy, isn't he?
Who?
Grant Chapps.
No.
Who's that guy?
The military guy was Tugendhat.
No, it's not Tugendhat. He's too young. There's an older guy. There's an older guy.
Oh, what? Ben Wallace? You talking
Ben
about
Wallace.
He didn't put his hand. He didn't
go for it. So he could go for it now.
I don't think so.
We'll see what happens.
No.
Anyway,
then they were left with...
We had all this stuff. Rishi Sunak, Truss, and Mordaunt were the main runners, really.
And then the biggest thing was that all the polling showed that if Mordaunt went through to the final two, because you got to come down to two, it doesn't matter who the other person was, Mordaunt was going to win.
Mm.
Yeah, because she's just liked by the members.
Mm.
Yeah. And MPs hate her. MPs can't stand her, okay? Especially on the right wing. And the crazy thing is, she and Sunak are the only Brexiteers there. True Brexiteers.
You know what's strange is that they're the most leftist of the whole party.
Yeah, they're not. Yeah, they're centre. They're centre right, aren't they?
That's what I'm saying.
They're centre right.
If you took them in a schematic of Conservative Party MPs,
yeah, they're right in the middle of politics. Left. Yeah. They don't believe in all this.
They're not
extreme...
centre Conservative. They're left Conservatives.
Yeah, from a Conservative perspective.
By which I mean they're centre in politics.
They're centre right. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And they're more. They see nothing wrong with social services. They see nothing in terms of actually you have to support these things, NHS, and
they understand
all the
role
things.
Of these services. Yeah.
And they believe the state has a duty to look after people. So Sunak and Mordaunt fall at that bracket, whereas the right wing, and that's Liz Truss and her group, you can always tell that they're different because the first thing they ever say is low taxes, not better country. It's always low taxes first, everything else second. And the crazies basically managed to get her through to the final two. And unfortunately, and it's an unfortunate thing, even though Sunak did really well compared to where people thought he was going to do, because he only lost by 10%. Okay, the reality is Britain is not ready for a brown prime minister. That's the way I look at it.
I don't actually believe that anymore.
It wasn't going to happen.
The more that I thought about this,
maybe now with Truss, they might be ready. But prior to what happened recently, because and the reason
it's a really difficult one, isn't it?
No, but the reason
I personally think that first we have to rephrase what you said, because I've reflected on this point, and initially I did think that. I was thinking, it probably is the fact that his background and skin colour has hindered him. But actually, the phrase Britain is not ready for a brown prime minister is not true. And even if it is that they're racist, it's actually the Conservative Party membership is not ready for a brown prime minister. Because it's not Britain that's voting, it's the Conservative Party membership.
Yeah, but...
And at the same time, you have to just take it with a pinch of salt that although, yes, he is South Asian background and he's brown and all these sorts of things, what he's actually pitching as a plan is not something that's, although it's better for the country, it's not something that is attractive to Conservative Party members. And Conservative Party members want low taxation for high earners. That's really what they want.
Those were the supporters of...
And that's what Truss was running on.
Yeah, but remember...
And that's why she became Prime Minister, because she's speaking to the people who are voting, he's speaking to the country.
Yeah,
and
but
although
I think
he's
it's important to remember...
He needs to remember, you have to play the game.
Yeah.
You have to understand how to play the
but I
game.
think there are a couple of things that you're missing. Okay, first of all, the reason I've said what I've said, I mean, the Conservative Party has put more brown and black people into powers of position when the Labour Party has ever done.
Doesn't matter.
Right?
You can't say Britain's not ready for a Prime Minister if Britain didn't vote.
Okay. You can I can accept that remark. Although I would say that...
Because you're just theorising what the Labour Party have done.
Yeah, no, but I'm theorising what the British people will vote. Not what the Labour Party would do.
I can tell you what the Conservative Party members did, but you can't tell me what Britain did.
Sorry?
Because Britain didn't do anything.
Okay, fine, forget that. But Sunak, when they went into that election against Truss, he only had about 25-30% potentially. That's what was going to be his maximum vote.
Yeah.
And by the end, it got to 40 plus, I think. Okay,
but Truss,
almost 40.
Truss was an idiot.
Yeah, but hold it.
Have you seen the speeches that she gave?
I know. I don't dispute that. But he did a lot better than anybody expected. I think that now you could argue the Conservative Party will fully endorse Sunak purely because of two things. One, he has proven that in his speeches he was bang on about everything to do with the economy.
Yeah,
absolutely everything. It was like he wasn't like out a little bit. He was bang on. Everything he said that would happen,
okay, so
and he trashed her economy. Now let me finish. That's the first thing. The second thing is that because Liz Truss trashed the economy, it's almost like, well, who else was predicting what was going to happen in the way that he was? There wasn't anybody else saying it in the same way. So there are people who have more confidence in him to actually bring things around. Whether they can do that or not is debatable. So maybe they will vote for him to be the next Prime Minister. It's quite possible they could choose him.
Here's what I'd say.
But that doesn't mean to say that he would pick the best. I think Mordaunt would still be a better
Why
Prime
do you think
Minister.
Mordaunt's a better Prime Minister?
Because there's more to politics than just talking about the economy.
What does she know about politics that she does better than Rishi Sunak?
Did you not see how when the Prime Minister's questions? I thought she was brilliant when early this week, and
she trashed her own Prime Minister this week.
No, she didn't. She didn't. You're actually taking a comment out of the context.
That's not out of context. She said, "I can assure you, the Prime Minister's not hiding under her desk."
Yes, but that was to an answer to a question, which was, is the Prime Minister hiding under a desk?
And someone who's savvy with politics knows that when she makes that remark about her Prime Minister, she is putting her Prime Minister in a difficult position rather than saying the Prime Minister is working on really important plans to help the country.
She had been
and that's
saying
all she has to say.
Yeah, but she had been saying that again and again and again.
To use the words of the person who made the remark in the first place, she knows she's trashing her own Prime Minister. She absolutely knows it.
I think you're reading... Okay, fine. But I think you're reading far more into it than it actually was. But having said that, I'm sure she wasn't a fan of Liz Truss anyway.
Of course she's not. She ran against her.
Yeah. And also a lot of this stuff. Basically, with the reason I think Mordaunt would make a better Prime Minister is that her background is more aligned with most people in Britain. Her background, the way she's been brought up, the way she actually had all the struggles she had. Basically, her father was in the armed one second. Her mother died when she was quite young.
So that still doesn't align with most.
I'm not saying, but that sort of most people who go through that don't then suddenly become leader of the House of Commons. They don't. She's been through quite a lot.
I know she's been through a lot, but the thing is, people go through stuff.
I think people want people who are grounded.
She's made that part of her story, and it is part of her story.
Yeah,
and it is difficult stuff that she had to go through, but it doesn't mean that it aligns with people in Britain.
I think more people would sympathise with the story, and empathise with that than they would with a guy who probably has never
who's the son-in-law of a billionaire.
No, fine, but I'm talking about growing up as a kid. He wasn't a son-in-law of a billionaire.
Yeah, he is now though. So
yeah, but growing up, he had a relatively straightforward upbringing, except that his parents put a lot of money, spent the money they had, they saved and put him into a top school, as they did with his.
I understand that he's got that background, but if you give me $1 billion, I will change.
That would apply to anybody.
So,
but I don't think
it will apply to anybody, including Rishi Sunak.
Yeah, but I don't think that makes him any less suitable a candidate.
I think it makes him not understand people, and it's not his own doing.
I don't know. I think it's
not his own doing. No, it's just the nature of the situation.
I think he is. I think he's more grounded than you're giving him credit for.
I'm not saying he's not grounded. I'm saying he can't relate to people.
No, I don't.
He can't relate to people like he would have related to people if he was on just an MP salary.
Yeah, but you can't. Yeah, but MPs don't relate to people. You get some of these MPs.
MPs don't. I know.
Some of these MPs.
I know MPs don't.
Planet women.
But if you are the son-in-law of a billionaire, when people are telling you fuel prices are expensive, this doesn't mean anything to you. When people are telling you I can't buy milk, it doesn't mean anything to you.
I don't know. I disagree with that purely because
I think you can empathise.
I'll tell you why I disagree with that.
Ever really understand.
I'll tell you why I disagree with that, because a lot comes down to the approach you take to being a politician, all the rest of it. One of the things that I did like about him was that when he became an MP, he's an MP in Yorkshire. Okay, so he's an MP in a famous
Yorkshire.
Seat. Yeah, Richmond. I think it's Richmond. So he's got William Hague's old seat. William Hague used to be the leader of the Conservative Party. All right. And one of the things that he did, which I liked, was that he, basically he was given this seat. All right. He knew he was going to become the MP. He could easily have said, right, great, and spend all his time in London. But no, what he did was he actually spent a lot of time there and tried to learn about farming and all the people, because that's one of the big industries in that constituency. He actually went and tried to learn all this stuff.
Of course he has to, because his constituents have to keep voting for him.
Yeah, but they're going to vote Conservative anyway. It's a very strong Conservative thing. Do you
know how many places in the last 12 years have voted different to what we thought they were?
Yeah, but when he got
how many Labour seats were lost?
Yeah, but when he got but I think that
how many
different.
Strong Labour seats have been lost?
2019 was an aberration. No, what were the chances that Jeremy Corbyn would end up being your candidate?
It doesn't matter. I'm telling you,
at the same time as
you have to keep doing the groundwork. You can't take it for granted.
Yeah,
These MPs know this. There's a reason that they spend 3 years of their 4 years campaigning to try and win again.
Yeah, but why do you think the Conservatives won the last election? It wasn't because of Boris.
Because there wasn't any trust in Jeremy Corbyn.
No, that is part of it. But why was it so bad?
Because Jeremy Corbyn could not give straight answers to big problems, which was, would you take this country to war if you need to take it to war? And look where we are now.
Yeah, you couldn't say that.
What would you think he would have done with Russia and Ukraine?
I think he would have.
People forget this,
did,
but if we chose Jeremy Corbyn, he would have actually been asked that question in real life.
Yeah.
Because that's actually what's being asked now.
That's true. The Labour Party would have.
I know people making out like it's not a big deal. He's a pacifist. We haven't been to war for 100 years anyway.
Yeah.
We're literally being asked that question right now. is
That's
what
true.
happens if Russia goes one step too far? Do we get involved or not? And he would have to actually make an answer.
Yeah.
And he can't say, we're going to leave Ukrainians in the dirt
Yeah.
while
I
Russia
agree.
overtakes them.
No, that's true. I mean, that is. We are very lucky that he wasn't elected. Very lucky indeed. And also,
He should honestly be sitting there reflecting, thinking, I was asked those questions, and I would have never been, and really, I wouldn't have sent us to war. That's what he was really saying.
Yeah, he wouldn't have done it.
And I know he said I'd explore every other, sort of process.
He was intellectualizing it all, wasn't he? He was trying to say,
he should be sitting there thinking, thank God I didn't become Prime Minister, because I would have actually had to do something that I can't morally do.
For himself.
Yeah.
On his morals.
He would never be able to live with his own conscience that he had to do that.
Yeah. There's no doubt about that. I mean, that's... that goes
I'm not someone who hates Jeremy Corbyn. I haven't got a problem with him, really. But as soon as that was his position... Unfortunately, it means you can't be Prime Minister.
Yeah, that's right.
As soon as you're someone who takes war off the table, it's just not how it works. So unfortunately, that's just how it is.
Yeah. So
I'm just going to bring us back to the candidates again. So we talked about. So there's Penny Mordaunt, there's Rishi Sunak, and there's Truss. And the thing I just want to make clear is, because we were talking about Sunak not being electable and stuff, and potentially the fact that his race is involved. I think one thing just to make clear is that Sunak was not speaking to the Conservative Party members.
When?
He tried it a little bit when he was running.
No, he was running at the hustings.
When he was running in the hustings, part of him was always speaking to the country, because if you look at his speeches, part of him was always speaking to the country.
He had the bigger picture in mind.
And he had the bigger picture in mind, thinking, if I become Prime Minister, I actually need the faith of the nation.
Yeah.
Whereas Liz Truss, if you look at how she was even viewed when she won, the country still had zero faith in her.
Yeah, she was only talking to her constituency.
Zero faith. Yeah. She was just talking directly to the people who are voting for her,
she had
and no one else.
Yeah, that's true.
And now you see a lot of support for Rishi Sunak, because people are saying, well, he was right on the economic front.
Yeah.
And I guess we should have expected him to be right on the economic front, given that he was a chancellor
in the most difficult time in British history and recent history.
If anyone has the numbers to look at, he's the guy who has the numbers to look at.
But it's also what he's
And when
been
he
through.
resigned, he was the person who knew more about the economy than anyone else. Yeah. He knows more about the projections for the economy than anyone else. So he probably knows what to do with taxes more than anyone else. Yeah.
In fact,
so when he comes out
and
he says, you know what, guys, and gosh, it's not like I know all the numbers, and I'm not an economic expert. I'm not obviously the Chancellor of the Exchequer, but I think it's pretty clear cut if you look as a citizen of the country and you say, we've done a lot of spending during COVID. We've done a lot of bailing people out.
Massive.
And not just bailing out companies, but bailing out individuals.
That's right.
We've been doing a lot of subsidising.
10 million people sitting at home being paid for.
Exactly. And you're sitting there saying, we have been spending so much money to stop everything crashing. How are we going to pay this back? Everyone was thinking that. Everyone was thinking, where is this money coming from?
Yeah.
They're spending this money.
They're all loans.
It's not like this money they just had it for a bad day. It's not like they looked in their sofa and they found this $1 billion between the pillows. They borrowed money and they knew they had to pay it back. And the idea that Liz Truss stood there and said, we're going to spend our way out of this economy.
I know.
We're going to spend our way so good.
Unfunded.
We're gonna spend so good that we're gonna make more money than we're spending.
I know. Just absolutely.
Is so risky.
Well,
forget the fact whether it would work or not.
Yeah.
Because we don't know if a mini budget would have worked. We don't know that.
But it never went through, so we don't.
It never went through. But the idea of it was so risky. Of course, it would destabilize the markets. Yeah. And Rishi Sunak sitting there and saying, you know what? We have spent a lot of money, and the whole world and the general public know we have spent a hell of a lot of money.
And he was mentioning this in each of his speeches. He was saying it.
And he's backing it up with the numbers. And he's saying, we have spent a lot of money.
And we've got to start paying it back.
And he says, we need to pay it back.
Yeah.
And we need to balance the books to some degree.
At some point in time, we've got to balance the books. That's right.
Take loans and then give it on to the future generations and just hope that they get away with it.
Yeah.
We do actually need to be responsible. And I think that level-headedness is why people are starting to like him now. But really, they should have liked him at that point because he was correct then.
I think you're right. I think one of the problems is that and this is my own personal impression now. When Liz Truss went around giving her speeches, all right, her supporters, people like Badenoch, people like Braverman, people like Rees-Mogg and these
Jacob Rees-Mogg
and Stephen Clark, all these people who were more on the Brexit side of things, went around saying she's right, she's right, she's right, she's right, and they're respected individuals. There were things they've done in the past that are good, so they were respected for those things, and therefore, them going around saying she's right, she's right, she's right, meant nobody really, apart from Rishi Sunak, nobody questioned her. Okay, and as a result, she kept. I mean, even when at the hustings they had these one-to-ones with the. They were normally Conservative Home were organising these things where an interviewer would basically ask questions and then you'd get questions from the audience. Even then, she just insisted she knew what she was doing without any real backing to say this is going to work, because nothing like that had ever been done. So, and there's this assumption. And one of the things I really hate about this thing, I use the word hate correctly. This idea that if you're a low tax economy, companies will come here. There is a truth. There is a truth by saying if you're a low tax economy, companies might come to you, but Britain has more to offer than just low taxes. If you only say the reason to come here is low taxes, what the hell are you saying about the rest of Britain?
Yeah, there's
it's
a
just
lot.
Crazy.
Even to be honest, even things like the GMT line helps us a lot.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, it helps us a lot. It helps us a lot. There's a reason that every big company has an office in New York, here, and Japan.
Yeah, exactly.
And it's the time zones.
Yeah.
The time zones make a big difference.
Yeah, exactly. And Hong Kong, of course, so it's Japan, Hong Kong. But the point is that
Hong Kong's China.
Well, yeah, but China, it's not ruled.
It's Tokyo, isn't it? Tokyo's office.
Yeah, but Hong Kong is still the main thing.
You think so?
Yeah, no, definitely. But the point is, she was really challenged, and she convinced herself, because all the people around her, all the sycophants, were saying you're right. So nobody ever questioned her in the way. Whereas Sunak, he basically tore her apart, and because he tore her apart, people thought, well, it can't be. He's the only one saying it, so what's the point?
Yeah, but he's also speaking to a party where if you say what the nation needs, it doesn't equate with what those party members want, because they're on one side of the economic spectrum.
Yeah, there's more to it, yeah. Well,
they're on one side of the economic spectrum of the population of the UK, so they're looking for a different argument. They want to believe in what Truss is saying, because they're not necessarily thinking about the country, they're thinking about what their personal benefit will be as a result of her plans, and a result of Rishi Sunak's plans. And
I think it's a caricature of Tories. I mean,
I'm not saying all Tories are like that at all. I'm saying that the general trend is leading.
They want to
towards
hear
that.
a positive message, and she was giving a positive. We're going to make you all rich. We're going to make you all rich.
Yeah, that's the thing.
And
but you only need a certain amount of people to want that for you to tip the spectrum in that.
And she won by a very close margin. She won by a relatively close margin.
8% or something.
Yeah, 8-10%, something like that. Very low compared to other elections. Okay, so here we have a situation. It's been quite a vindictive type of election. They've been having a go at each other, hammer and tong. Both sides are having a go at each other. And then normally say, right, it's all over, let's be friends. No. She becomes Prime Minister and demonstrates that she cannot stand the other side by having a cabinet made up literally only of her friends.
All of her mates, yeah.
It's absolute madness. What
is she going to be remembered for?
What is she going to be remembered for?
Mm-hmm.
I think there are a couple of things that she'll be remembered for.
Opening the gates of Hades.
Yeah, Pandora's box. That's what it looks like.
That's what it was.
That's what it looks like. Sorry. So, no, I think the first thing is she will be seen as the person who trashed the economy.
Yeah.
Simply by coming up with the idea.
The first thing she'll be seen as is the person who ended the reign of the Queen.
Oh, God, yeah. No sooner has she become...
She shook her hand and the Queen said...
dead in 2 days.
The Queen said, I'm done. This is a
terrible.
Queen who's seen God knows how many prime ministers. She's lived through wars.
She survived everything.
Everything. 70 years on the throne.
Yeah, 70 years.
70 years. And she's seen as the pillar of our country for God knows how many decades.
Loved her all around the world.
She's gone through Corona. She survived Corona. She survived economic crash 2008 and 9.
It's actually
she's done all this stuff.
It's actually amazing how many leaders
Cold
she's actually
War,
met.
World War
everything.
II,
seen everything.
HIV, pandemic, like all this sort of stuff.
Along comes Truss, and it's like
Truss came. She said, "I'm done, mate."
Can't handle it. Oh my God!
She literally looked up to God and said, "What are you trying to do?"
Yeah, this is enough. Can you imagine having my weekly meetings with her?
Hari Kiri.
Yeah, can you imagine?
That's how they found her. God.
That's terrible. That's terrible. No, I mean, it was awful.
That's what my death certificate says. It says Liz Truss.
Liz Truss
1A
was
Liz
here.
Truss.
Liz Truss was here. But can you imagine what her meetings would be like? She could, because they have a weekly meeting.
Just imagine being Prime Minister. You shake the hand of the Queen, and less than 48 hours later, the Queen dies.
Dead. I know.
If ever she knew that she wasn't going to be Prime Minister for more than a year, that was the moment.
Yeah. That was terrible. But the point is, can you imagine what those meetings... Because the thing about the Queen, unlike I believe any other country in the world, the monarch, so the King Charles now, but the Queen at that time, she can always ask for the Prime Minister to come to her to explain something.
Yeah.
All right, and he or she has to do that. They can't just say, "No, tough luck. You're just."
Maybe she looked at her and said, "Mate, she's going to be here every day."
Yeah. So yeah. Hold it. Hold it. The thing is, there's also a weekly meeting that takes place every week where the Prime Minister has to go to Buckingham Palace and explain what he's doing or she's doing. Yeah, every week they have this meeting.
Imagine how productive we'd be if we didn't have to do that.
All right. So anyway, no, but the point is, can you imagine what the Queen would have to deal with if it was Liz Truss there? What do you say to Liz Truss when she comes out with a balmy plan? What do you say to Liz Truss when her whole idea was to upset the apple cart? And she was openly saying it. She wanted to upset the apple cart. She didn't want the Treasury involved. She believed all the old ways of doing things, i.e. the stuff that's been working for the last 200 years, doesn't work now, so we're going to do it all new. At a time when the whole country's under immense stress because of what's going on in Ukraine, as a consequence of what's going on in Ukraine. That's primarily where the stress is coming from. And she was upset
the cost of living crisis.
Yeah, but even that has come from the fact that Ukraine, the gas prices going up. Ukraine's and food prices also have gone up because of the wheat that's not being delivered from Ukraine.
Meal deal is so expensive now, I can't even describe.
Really?
Don't go to Marks and Spencer.
Don't go to Marks and Spencer. But the point is, she's having to do... Can you imagine having to deal with a Prime Minister who's blind to all of that? Who's actually blind to it?
I don't think she's blind to it, but
she must. She was blind to it.
She killed the Queen, and then, allegedly.
Allegedly.
And then, so that's the first thing that happened. That was less than 48 hours into her run, and then she got a little bit of a break while we all walked past the Queen.
Yeah,
the empty box.
Yeah, a week. Empty box. It wasn't an empty box. But the point is.
So we walked past. So
you got a 10-day. You got a 10-day period.
You had a 10-day
where she can sort of, she's lucky. In some respects, she's lucky because she's not in the news. It's not about her at all. She's just got to play the part of a decent Prime Minister.
Yeah. No but more, this is when less. You jump on the back of your cabinet and you say, "We've got a 10-day buffer.
Let's think.
Do something impressive.
Yeah, start thinking about how we're going to make
your heads together and give us a good plan of what we're doing.
So what does she do?
Because we can spend 10 days while the world watches us, while the world watches the funeral and all these proceedings, and we can sort everything out in the background while everyone is just happy to just keep watching."
Yeah, exactly.
Even Putin's just watching all this stuff from Russia. He is. He's thinking, look at the kids around the coffin. That's nice.
So what does she do? Does she do that? No. What she does is she sits down with one of her best mates, Kwasi Kwarteng. They're very, very chummy, been friends for years. She sits down with him, comes up with a plan for the economy, doesn't involve any member of the cabinet. Okay. And then she makes this announcement that there's going to be an event.
Yeah.
You're not allowed a financial event, but you're not allowed to call it a mini budget. Yeah. And even the BBC was told you're not allowed to use the word mini budget.
Because they knew it'd crash the economy.
Well, they genuinely trying to make it sound as really impressive. And it was
Boris
impressive in how bad it was.
Like, I knew I left some mushrooms in number 10.
So anyway,
that's where they are.
So she comes out with this wonderful plan that she describes in the House of Commons, and the Tories are cheering it, but very few people. But the people who could criticise it have just decided to keep quiet because remember she won, and the idea is normally when you win, you be gracious. You losers, as losers, you should be gracious. As winners, you be gracious. She's not gracious, but the losers are gracious and willing to give her a chance. No sooner do they announce what they're going to do than reality hits and the markets collapse. Yeah. Pound goes down.
And I'll be honest, the
whole thing sends the economy into a spin.
It's really hard.
And then it's almost like it took a bit of time for her. They tried to blame everybody but themselves, which doesn't help. They're saying,
no, they're blaming the markets.
They're blaming the Russians. They're blaming Ukraine. They're saying it's happening all over the world. It's got nothing to do with all the stuff. All the bad stuff that's happening around the world was happening before UK didn't crash. They're refusing to recognise they've created that crash.
I know. It's like punching someone in the face and the person says, I don't like you anymore. Says, it's a bit cold today, isn't it? That's probably why they don't like me.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly. So, and then she's left with no choice but to get rid of her best mate. Okay.
She had to save herself.
And all that best mate did was do what she told him to do.
But sometimes you've got to cut some dead weight.
Yeah. But the thing about it was that when she did that announcement about him being asked to resign, blaming him, she gave an interview to the press. So the press are there, and they're allowed to normally ask questions. She refused to take more than 4 questions.
I remember that.
It's absolutely outrageous. If you're going to own the situation, you stay there until the last question is asked.
Because she knows she can't handle it.
She couldn't handle it, and she knew she was wrong.
But to be honest, we could tell that from the first day she was Prime Minister, that she's not a good orator.
Yeah, she's not a good communicator.
And I know she did all the hustings and she was talking about all this stuff, but in the hustings, she was just literally rattling the same speech over and over again. Yeah, same speech
again and again, yeah.
And
she's a Theresa May. Remember Theresa May? We're going to be strong and stable.
Was better than her.
Yeah, but remember, she kept on saying the same thing.
Theresa May was a better orator than her.
Yeah.
And Theresa May, in the weirdest way, she actually sounded like she cared about what she was talking about.
Yeah.
Whereas Liz Truss just sounds like...
automaton.
No, she sounds like a scared little child, and the teacher's telling them off, and the scared little child is just trying to say whatever they can so that they don't get in trouble.
Really?
That's actually what she sounds like.
That's what she sounds like to you.
Especially with the speeches and everything. It really sounds like someone who is inherently worried. She's got a shaky voice. She doesn't sound like she's confident in what she's saying. Even when she says it, and I have no doubt that she probably believed in some of the stuff she said.
She did, definitely.
But when she said it, it didn't sound like she really believed it. It sounded like, I'm just really trying, guys. Like, guys, I'm just really trying.
Yeah.
It doesn't
Except
sound
the fact
like,
that I'm trying. Yeah,
it wasn't like she stood up to the mark and said, we're doing this.
Yeah. No,
and that's
true.
what she needed to be like.
Yeah.
And her plan still wouldn't have worked, which is why she's gone. But that's one learning point for her, if you're listening, Liz. If you're listening, and you're this far into the show, that's my one take home for you is you need to go and you need to talk to yourself in the mirror and you need to say, I need to talk about what I actually stand for and what I believe in. Because I've seen some old speeches of her when she was much younger and she was speaking much better. And this was a sign that she was not fit for office because she's such a fish out of water that she really doesn't know if she's standing behind what she's saying or if she's just saying it to get where she is.
Yeah. So she sacks Kwasi Kwarteng.
Yeah.
Who I'm sure is partly to blame for a lot of this stuff. I mean, a lot of people are saying he just followed what she said.
Yeah,
I'm sure she dictated.
As a responsible chancellor,
he did not challenge her.
Yeah, exactly.
He didn't challenge her.
Exactly. You need to know when you're about to crash into a wall, and if you're the driving instructor, you need to brake.
Yeah, exactly. In fact, I actually think some of the things that he did, he thought he could get away with, which is why I put them in there. That tax cut for the 45%. To get rid of the 45% tax. I think he just said that because he thought, well, it's only a couple of billion, I'll get away with it. He didn't understand the social implications of that and the political implications. I mean, that's how dumb this whole scenario is, that the two people who are running the country had no clue of the social and political consequences.
They have literally come into a country which is in the middle of a cost of living crisis.
Yeah.
And the whole country, including rich people, know that people who can't afford things are the priority.
Yeah, exactly.
And he says, I'm going to give a tax break to the rich.
Rich, I know. It's absolute madness.
Couldn't you hold off for 6 months before you said
exactly, exactly. So she gets rid of him, and she obviously has to bring somebody in. And for I found this quite funny initially when I heard it was Jeremy Hunt.
Hang on, I'm going to stop you there because she's been in power for 6 weeks.
No, this time it was about 4, I think.
4 weeks.
Or maybe 5.
We went from the Queen dying to Kwasi Kwarteng losing his job.
Yeah.
What happened in the middle?
Basically, no, but what happened in the middle was that that 10-day period.
10 days and 4 weeks.
Yeah, that 10-day period took it to about 3 weeks, and then it's a week later. So it was a week after. Because what
should have just gone on holiday.
No. What happened? I think you forgot some of the sequences.
It's like she had a summer holiday from school.
Initially, she had announced she was going to have this fiscal event.
Right.
I think it was called a fiscal event, but then the Queen died, so it got pushed out by a week or 10 days. So she kept quiet. And instead of this event happening 2 weeks after she came to power, it came 3 weeks after. Okay,
when did her electricity plan come in?
That was about 3 weeks, 3.5 weeks after.
Okay, so this was before Kwasi Kwarteng.
Yeah.
So pre-mini budget, she had this
No,
electricity plan.
that was part of the mini budget.
That was part
of the mini budget, and then within 4 or 5 days, the whole world sees that Britain is tanked.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'll tell you what, it's particularly concerning when we start thinking of ourselves close to the Americans with our pound.
Yeah.
When the pound's dropping close to, if we're thinking it's going to get 1 to 1.
It's bad.
That's really bad.
Yeah, exactly.
Like we want 1 to 1.5. We will not.
We
will not budge on that, America.
Yeah. So anyway, so Kwasi Kwarteng is gone, and then I thought it was quite funny that Jeremy Hunt was brought in because he was an ardent Remainer. Okay, and what part of what she was saying, and also he's the one guy who's probably the most hated ex-minister because of what he did.
First guy out of the elections, by the way.
Yeah, first guy out of the elections.
First guy out as a candidate.
The person who actually failed to get through even on the first count of votes. And the reality is, he's become the Prime Minister.
He is the Prime Minister now, yeah.
You're right. When he became Chancellor, he effectively gave me the chance, because it was his job. What do you do next? He did the right thing.
Exactly.
I'm going to trash everything you've done, reverse it all. He's become the Prime Minister.
But this is the reason that her position is now completely untenable.
Yeah, completely untenable.
Because she made that economic plan with Kwasi Kwarteng, and she got rid of him thinking, I've got a scapegoat. Yeah. And she must have had a chat with him saying, listen, I'm really sorry, but
exactly.
I know our plan, we really believe in it.
I need someone to shield.
It's not worked out, and I still need to be PM, mate.
Yeah,
so
exactly.
We've got to let you go. And he probably was understanding and said, fine,
I'm sure
I understand.
In fact, the funny thing
it's a bit annoying that it didn't work, but we had a good run.
Yeah, but one of the things was that he was in America. He was supposed to be there for 2 days. He came back a day early, not knowing he was going to be sacked.
That's it, yeah.
Can you imagine that?
He probably understood. I think from America, he probably saw what
America, he was actually being asked a question, are you going to be the Chancellor in a week's time? He said yes.
Yeah, but he probably saw what happened and said, but eventually he must have realised there's actually nothing, there's no way out of it.
No.
As soon as they knew they were going to use
As soon as they got together in the meeting, then he knew he was going to be sacked.
Yeah.
But up until then, he didn't have a clue. He thought he was going to be
So she got rid of him, and then Hunt came in, and oh my God, I'm not a fan of Jeremy Hunt. Never really have been. I think he doesn't understand how things work. I don't think he understands how people are. And weirdly, it might make him a decent Chancellor, but the problem is that I feel his priorities for the economy will be wrong.
His priorities
but what
for the
he
economy,
did know, which everyone knew, and everyone could have made the same decision as him, is Truss's plan didn't work.
Yeah, exactly.
The whole country knew this. 70 plus million people knew that Truss's plan didn't work.
They knew it was a disaster.
And Truss, I'm so sure that when Hunt came in, she sat with him and said, is there any way we can save on
Yeah,
that?
yeah, exactly. I have no doubt she was thinking like
And
that.
I'm sure he sat across from her and said, please start taking your medication. And then he said, we need to scrap everything because everything you've suggested is disastrous.
And she sat back and said, you got to save some of it. And what did they save? Right, the national insurance cut will allow that. Yeah. And then there was the electricity,
because it needs to sound like she had some good suggestions.
So the money going towards keeping people's bills down you couldn't undo that because it was too late.
Yeah.
You know, if we were 6 months away from winter, it'd be different, but we're not.
I'll ask this question. Did she definitely have to change anything about the economy when she came in? Or was she just doing it to
No, she did it for herself. The only thing she needed to do was say, how are we going to help people's energy bills? That was the only thing.
Yeah.
And then she went nuts and decided to change the whole world.
I think she wanted to put a stamp down early.
Early, yeah. She probably thought 2 years to go, I'm going to start now.
She just jumped in a puddle and realised it was a ditch. That's what happened. It was just 6 foot.
Well, it wasn't. She went straight through.
She's only 3 foot tall.
Yeah, yeah. And I think Kwasi Kwarteng also was of that ilk, and I think a lot of the people around her were like that as well.
Because
they all
I don't
thought
think
they could do
Sunak would have changed that much.
No, he wouldn't. He was actually saying.
I think it would have tinkered, but I don't think he would have drastically changed.
But Sunak was saying during the whole of the election campaign during the summer, he said winter's going to be bad. The energy bills are going to be bad. He was actually saying inflation is going bad. Don't think that I'm going to become prime minister and things are going to be
fixed. Yeah.
It's all about stabilising the economy. His whole thing was about we're going to go through a really bad period. We've got to stabilise the economy. That was he was saying that back in June, July.
Yeah.
And all through August, through September. It's just unbelievable.
So here comes Hunt. So Hunt says what everyone knows he needs to say, and he knows he needs to say, which is, Liz, come off it, mate. Like we need to actually just scrap everything
and she's still in
start
denial.
From square one.
Yeah, and she's still in denial.
And
as are her people around her sycophants.
Yeah, and he basically says, I need a bit of time to think about what we're doing.
Exactly.
Because he's obviously not thinking about what he needs to do.
Well, that was on the Friday.
He's been offered a position, and he said, "Yeah, I can do this," and he doesn't really know what's going on. He's come into the role. He knows that you need to scrap everything and start again. So he says, "Okay, on the 29th of October, whatever it is, I'm going to do an announcement." But in the meantime, he has to say some things to stabilise the economy because everything's going to pot. So he says, we're going to U-turn on everything.
Yeah.
So fine. And he's got a couple of little plans of like, we'll keep this and do that. And then, Suella Braverman...
No, you're missing a couple of points. So he's brought in on the Thursday, I think it was. Last week. So Friday goes by and people are asking, what are you going to do? And then... he said, well, we got to look at the problem. The one good thing he did was up front, he said, look, I need to talk to all those people that Liz Truss and Kwasi Kwarteng refused to talk to. The Bank of England, the OBR. He even went to the debt collection people for government debt and all that sort of stuff and talked to them. Yeah. And then over the weekend, it was just quiet. And then Monday morning, out of the blue, comes a statement that he's going to make a statement at 11 o'clock in the morning. Okay. Mm-hmm. And he was going to make a statement in the afternoon in the House of Commons, but he got an agreement with the leader of the House of Commons to actually make a statement to the general public ahead of the MPs, which is actually not done normally. It's not normally done. And what he said was, Liz Truss's ideas are bloody crap.
He had to say
we're gonna forget all of this, forget this. He kept two things, and then he said, hard decisions have yet to be taken. The tough decisions have yet to be taken.
That's because he knows he has to get rid of the other two as well.
Well, no, it's not just that, but it's also the fact that he's now it is so bad because they're trying to sort of make it look really pretty and all the rest of it. Yeah. He said it's so bad. We're now looking at having to cut back on public services.
Yeah, and you did. Yeah, you're right. Actually, I forgot that.
And that
was a big deal.
That was a massive deal.
Because one of the things, for people who don't know, who don't live in the UK, one of the things that is a really big deal to the British public is that there have been huge cuts in public services for the last 12 years. Everyone's feeling it. Like, everyone's talking about the police force hasn't got enough police. We haven't got enough doctors in the NHS. We haven't got nurses in the NHS.
Not enough
We're
social
struggling with
workers, not enough
schools,
this,
social workers,
yeah.
all this stuff.
Well,
And, you know, TfL people are striking because they're not getting the wages they want. There's a lot going on in this country at the moment. And public services are something that are inherently really valued as part of British culture. So it's not the case that we feel like we are necessarily entitled, but we feel like there's a responsibility by the people who are in power in this country
to maintain
look
them,
after
them,
the public and use the tax money that they get responsibly in a way that you can distribute some resources to a degree of fairness.
It's
obviously in a system where you're not adopting socialism.
Exactly.
You know, so...
But one of the crazy things is that Winston Churchill, when he was actually leader of the Conservative Party, he made a very famous statement about what social services meant. And he said that's the net that the government makes sure nobody falls through. So it's like the safety net for the country. And that's how can the so-called compassionate Conservatives always think of the national service, these public services. And now all of a sudden they're having to start saying, well, actually, we know it's bad, it's going to get worse. And that is a horrible message to give. And Hunt just was honest about it. He just said, right, this is what I've got to do. So he's gone in, almost like a guy with a spreadsheet saying, I've got to make these numbers make sense. And then on the in the afternoon, the Labour Party put, because the opposition are allowed to ask a question of the government. Okay. So they wanted to ask a question of Liz Truss, why did you sack Kwasi Kwarteng? All right. To get her to admit she'd made a mistake, basically. And Liz Truss didn't turn up for the actual question. She sat in Penny Mordaunt. And Penny Mordaunt did really well. I mean, she did really well. But she took a battering. But she took it, she gave as good as she got, basically. And then Jeremy Hunt came on. He gave his speech, explained everything. Yes, he got battered, but then he gave it straight. So he played it straight back. So you've suddenly got a situation where you can see some semblance of normality coming. Yeah. And then you got bloody Prime Minister's question times 2 days later on Wednesday, in which Liz Truss looks like she's in denial again. It's like, I'm not a quitter. I'm a fighter. I'm not a quitter. I've done this. I've done this. I mean, she actually thinks she's still helped the country, when she hasn't actually. Doesn't recognise she's literally put it down the toilet. So that makes it completely untenable. And then on top of that, remember today is Thursday. This is only yesterday I'm talking about. Then on top of that, they had a vote to do with fracking, and basically it was just one of these minor votes, which normally wouldn't even see the light of day, in which. One of the things she had said was that she was going to enable people to implement fracking sites if the local people consented to it. Okay, and the Labour Party asked a question about that, and instead of being a simple vote that nobody really cares about, she made the stupid decision to say this is now a vote of confidence in me. All right.
She's delusional.
And it's just crazy. I mean, she started literally cracking on her own. She got the whips out. She got the people out to hammer her own supporters, the Conservative Party MPs, to vote, regardless of their conscience, vote for whatever she said.
She's delusional. And
it's just madness.
That
I think broke the camel's back. I think that thing more than anything else broke the camel's back, because all of a sudden you recognise here's a person in power who has no clue as to, one, how to wield that power, but secondly, is actually delusional.
But how did she come to the self-realisation that she needed to actually resign?
Right, what happened was this morning, well, first of all, a lot of people...
She spoke to this
92... No, first of all, there were a couple of people who resigned. No, there were...
Suella resigned.
Yesterday, not today, yesterday. So after this debacle that happened, and also after Prime Minister Questions time, Suella Braverman basically resigned. And there's some very interesting what she did. Okay, so what she did, remember she's the Home Minister, the Home Secretary. She sent an email using her private email with a document that actually was only meant for cabinet eyes. Okay,
right, but she copied in everyone.
No, she sent it. She sent it to somebody.
Copy times.
Now, first of all, it sounds like she sent a mega secret document. Yeah, But actually, most of that document was public knowledge. So she didn't really, there wasn't any state secrets or anything. But she intentionally broke a rule. All right. And by breaking that rule, she said, well, I've broken a rule. I have to resign.
Oh, smart.
All right. And in her resignation letter, God, did she hammer Liz Truss. I mean, there is a really hard-hitting resignation letter, basically accusing her of being a liar. Okay.
Right.
Because what she implied was that Liz Truss wanted to relax the immigration rules to allow more people into the UK, but throughout the whole of the summer, she was saying she was going to tighten the immigration rules. Okay, and deal with the illegal immigrants. So she was going back on all that kind of stuff. So that hit. And then obviously there was because of this debacle with this vote, the two most important people in actually keeping control of the party in the House of Commons, both of them resigned. All right, and that's a big deal. And Liz Truss actually, what was actually reported was she was actually trying to find them in the House of Commons to get them to undo their resignations, which they eventually did. Okay, so straight away, you've got a party in disarray. You've got Liz Truss not being trusted by anybody, even in her own party. And then this morning, the people who run the Conservative Party, the 1922 committee, the chairman of that, went to see Liz Truss, and next thing you know, she's coming out in a lectern and saying, I'm a fighter, I'm not a quitter. I achieved so much. Goodbye.
She channeled the Queen, did she?
Yeah.
She, you know what's funny about that speech is I was at work when that happened, and I was watching it live.
Yeah, I was watching it live.
I don't know why I had it on. I think I'd seen everyone or something, and I just put the BBC News on, and they were just talking about, oh, what do you think about Liz Truss and where's the government going? And suddenly it was like, oh, she's meeting the 1922 Select Committee. And
That's right,
it looks like we're about to have an announcement. She walked out. What's funny was she walked out and she had this glass of water on the lectern.
Yeah.
And she said a speech for about 30 seconds. She left. And this poor lady had to come pick the glass of water up off the lectern.
Yeah.
I was like, why did she even go out with a glass of water on for a 30-second speech?
Well, I don't think anybody... I think she
can't believe there's someone whose job that is to just pick up the water.
Well, you have to pick up the water because somebody then has to pick up the lectern.
But 2 hands,
Yeah. Well, I don't know. It's a heavy lectern, but all I know
they
is
should probably make it lighter given how much work it's doing.
All I know is that no sooner has she done that, she'd resigned. Obviously, it sends. I'm not too sure if it sent shockwaves. I think it sent relax waves. All of a sudden,
I'll tell you, a lot of people had jokes ready on their phone. To send, because I was getting some jokes that I'm sure people have been saving them up for the last 4 weeks. Some of these things have been released.
Yeah.
Either the world is a lot funnier than I think it is, and people are smarter than I think they are, or people really didn't want her to survive.
Yeah, I think it's the latter.
The second one.
I think it's the latter.
But everything was against. I think the big question is, where does this leave us?
Right, that's interesting.
What is happening now?
Exactly. So now, I think the first thing was that in her speech, and I think this is actually quite interesting because obviously it was discussed when the 1922 committee chairman was there about, well, what happens next. Now, I bet you she was trying to say, oh, you can't get rid of me because it takes ages to get a new prime minister. It will take ages. It will take 6 weeks. And they turned around and said, no, it takes a week.
Yeah. I genuinely believe that's true. I genuinely believe that she thinks that the next person to be prime minister had to go exactly what she went through.
Yeah, exactly. And they turned around and said, no, it's a week.
Yeah.
And even then, there's a possibility of just 4 days. It could be Monday. It could be Monday.
Yeah.
So she's definitely no option then, isn't she? Basically,
imagine if it was Monday. Imagine if by Monday we had a new prime minister.
Yeah, and that's possible. That's a possibility.
That's so dangerous because no one knows who they're going to vote for at all right now.
Well, I'm pretty sure that.
Sunak. Could you imagine if Sunak booked a holiday and he's coming back on Tuesday?
Well, we know he's around. Can you
imagine if his flight back was on Tuesday and they could potentially have a prime minister?
In fact, the crazy thing is that when Suella Braverman gave her resignation yesterday, all right, Grant Shapps, who is also a Remainer, was put in charge of immigration, basically.
Oh my God.
So straight away, that's going to, why did she choose him? I don't know. Why don't you choose somebody who's
Surely
at least...
he's interested in running for Prime Minister, isn't he?
No, he actually led... He's actually a Rishi Sunak supporter.
Didn't he put his name in the hat
No,
originally?
was it Rishi Sunak? No, not Rishi Sunak. I think... I forget who he was...
Tom Todd's
No, it was
probably
Rishi
thinking,
Sunak.
I got
No,
another chance.
I think it was Rishi Sunak, actually. I think he's a Rishi Sunak supporter. But the point is, so they're having to deal with all this stuff. You can see that her decision at the beginning to say, I hate you guys, only my friends in the party. Now she's suddenly trying to get people from the other, to get some sort of balance, which she should have done from day one.
You should have done it from day one.
Yeah.
You need to hire the best people.
Yeah, who cares? Who cares if they vote for you or
It's
not?
not mates' rates. You need to hire the best people. This is what we expect from people.
Exactly.
We expect you to hire people you trust, but inherently the job has to be done by the best person available for that job.
Exactly. So now...
And that's why you need to understand that as a Prime Minister, as a leader of a corporation or a country, you need to understand that you are going to have hard decisions because you will disagree with people.
In fact, I would actually
the point is, they're supposed to be smart enough that they can stick to their guns when they know it's the right thing to do.
I'd also say one other thing, and that is, as a Prime Minister, you've got to have the guts to sack anybody, and having your mates there makes it harder. So don't have them.
Not to do too much of a parallel with football and stuff, because we do that a lot in the She-Hulk series. But but Roman Abramovich has brought a lot of silverware to Chelsea.
He's not hesitated in sacking people.
As soon as you're flopping, bye-bye.
Sacked. Yeah, exactly. That is true. So now we've got this situation where basically on Monday, those people who wish to become Prime Minister or wish to stand for election for a Prime Minister within the Conservative Party have to put their names in the hat. However, the sting in the tail is that if you cannot get 100 MPs to support you, you're automatically disqualified.
It's just going to be Mordaunt and Sunak.
However, there's been
only people.
Yeah, but now a third thing has happened. See, and in the morning when that was said,
because Hunt says he's not running.
Yeah, Hunt said he's not running. So initially,
because he knows he is the Prime Minister.
Yeah, it's true.
That's what's happened.
And he's
Hunt knows he will stay. Is the Prime Minister.
Yeah, and he will stay Chancellor. I'll be amazed if they get rid of him. They won't be able to.
Because he's stabilised the economy now by saying we're doing the U-turn. So even though he's not actually done anything, his words have meant enough that people are reassured to some degree that he's not going to rock the boat too much right now.
And also,
but because he is there, the next Prime Minister will have to agree with his economic plan.
Yeah, without a shadow of a doubt. But
unless Sunak comes in and says we're going to tinker.
No, but the other thing is that Hunt has actually also said he's not going to stand for Prime Minister, so that he's cemented his position as Chancellor. Okay, in doing that. Now, I
don't understand why Sunak can't just come in and say, "I'll just do both, mate."
He could do. There's nothing to stop him doing that. But
does the Prime Minister really do all the extra stuff that the Chancellor doesn't do? I guess he does.
Yeah, but the Chancellor. But what Hunt has done is effectively everything that Sunak said he was going to do. The only thing that he's done in terms of what Sunak did not do, and what he didn't say he was going, and the one thing that he didn't say he was going to do, was this cut in the basic rate of tax. Okay, which was part of the tax cuts that they were going to put in of 1p. Sunak said we should do it at some point in time when we can afford it, and he projected that he projected it to be in 2023, next year. Okay, if things go well. Hunter said, forget it.
He's not doing it at all.
Not doing it at all. He said, I don't see how we're going to get to a stage of being able to do that. That's how bad the economy is. Okay, so
the projections have changed now because of what's happened. Yeah, because Truss is.
So basically, he is following the Sunak plan. He is following the Sunak plan. So he's safe.
So Sunak just needs to pat him on the head and say,
"Yeah, whoever comes in will follow the Sunak plan." There's no way you can have somebody come in and not follow the Sunak plan now.
So we're talking a lot as if Sunak's our next Prime Minister.
Well, I'm not too sure. When they announced this 100, okay, it was only at 300 odd MPs. All right. So when they announced it. I saw only two people going forward, Mordaunt and
Sunak.
So person who came second, person who came third.
You don't think Tom Tugg's gonna come flying through the
They
crowd?
asked him and he said no. They actually asked him and he said no. I think Braverman might try to win some, but she's not going to get 100. Kemi Badenoch is not going to get 100. Okay. However, out of the blue, you've got these people now saying that Boris Johnson should come back, and I looked at the list of people who've openly said at the moment Boris Johnson is second.
It's a lot
in number of MPs who have come forward. All of them are Truss supporters. There isn't a single person who's saying I want Boris Johnson.
Truss, didn't he?
No, he didn't back him. He didn't back anybody. Okay.
Or did he not back anyone?
No, he didn't back anybody.
We can't let Boris back.
No, he can't let him back. He can't come back. So,
and the problem is, well, one, he's a liar.
He's had his time.
He's had his time.
He's gone.
But also, who is he going to put in his cabinet? There's no one. The people who are in his cabinet had already left.
Yeah.
So they all said that they didn't have any trust.
All those people who resigned. What, you're going to suddenly get rid of half the best people you got? You can't do that. It doesn't even make sense. So
he's a good orator.
He's brilliant.
Brilliant's strong, but he's a good orator. He is actually witty. He's smart.
He's very smart.
But the problem is that he's also an idiot and an imbecile.
He doesn't take detail. He
doesn't understand the details, and he doesn't understand.
He's blue sky thinking, but that's as far as he goes.
He doesn't understand people.
No, I think he understands people, but he doesn't understand
not people are
all
struggling.
the consequences.
Not people are struggling.
I think I think he does, but he doesn't understand all the consequences.
He's too brave.
Yeah, he's too brave.
He believes he's untouchable. He really suffered from that in the last 3-4 years. He believed, and he always has actually suffered from that. He believes that it doesn't matter what he does, as he walks God's green earth, nothing can touch him. He really believes that.
He's got that confidence in him. Yeah, that's the sort of person he is.
It doesn't matter who.
Even when he was
someone says to him, "You're a liar," he goes, "No." And he said, "But we've got all this evidence that you're lying." He goes, "Of course I'm not a liar."
Yeah.
He just says it, and then that's it. He keeps walking.
Yeah. So
he's our version of Donald Trump in a weird way. It's not rich.
I know, but the I mean, I think he's a lot cleverer than Donald Trump in the sense that I think he is. And the point is, they've got their differences and they've got their similarities. However, so it can be argued the reason that they've got this 100 limit is to keep Boris out. Because it's highly unlikely.
He just can't win a general election anyway, otherwise.
He's not going to be able to get 100 MPs to support him.
So when's the next general election? 2025?
2025 latest. That's the latest. It can happen any time between now and February 2025.
If Boris comes back, there's no way.
He's not going to come back. How can he come back?
What I'm saying is if he does come back and he says, I want to do it, there's no way the general public will allow it. Would be the end of the Conservative Party for the next 20 years.
The only way that he could come back and still survive after a general election is if by some miracle Britain becomes 1,000 times better than it is at the moment.
No, it won't even be like that. I'll tell you why. Because who are the Lib Dems? Does anyone remember who the Lib Dems are?
Nobody remembers the Lib Dems.
And why did that happen? Because Nick Clegg.
Well, it's not just Nick Clegg, it's also the other woman as well who followed her. Nobody can remember her name.
But Nick Clegg, he said tuition fees,
they're
going to be capped. They're going to stay exactly where they are. And as soon as he had a chance to become Deputy Prime Minister, he chucked his morals out the window. The same problem is with the Conservative Party is bringing Boris back. They all said, it's his time to go.
Yeah.
If they bring him back and they U-turn on their own decision to get rid of a Prime Minister...
It would be terrible. It would be terrible.
That's it for them, for the next generation.
I still remember seeing a thing with about Nick Clegg. There was a guy who was trying to explain to people who Nick Clegg was. And he started by saying, right, Nick Clegg, he's a leader of the Liberal Democrats. So you may know him as Judas.
Judas.
and that was basically the sort of words he used.
That is how he was treated.
Yeah, and he was. And he lost his seat.
And even now, people meet him. That's what they'll remember him for. They won't remember him for being leader of the Lib Dems. They'll remember that he U-turned on a huge thing.
Huge promise.
Issue, yeah.
So the two favourites were Sunak and Mordaunt. with Boris Johnson now coming into play, it's quite possible the only person that can get 100 votes is Sunak, because all that will happen.
They're going to split between Mordaunt and...
Well, Johnson, what happened if Johnson's there? He'll draw votes away from Mordaunt, because Mordaunt and Sunak are both Brexiteers, okay, but Mordaunt is, I think most people who are Brexiteers would prefer Mordaunt over Sunak, and the reason for that is Sunak has spent a huge amount of money, and a lot of people are saying that he's too close to the fact that we owe so much money.
Yeah, I was actually wondering if one of the reasons that Sunak may not be a good candidate is because, I say not a good candidate, but not an attractive candidate to the Conservative Party membership, who are ultimately just choosing again.
Well, it might not even get to them.
Well, or whatever
if it's only one person,
but,
yeah, I'll talk
it's
about it in a second.
Conservative Party supporters and whatnot who are doing the voting.
Yeah.
The only reason I was wondering if Sunak might struggle is because I think now, with the economy now being different to when he laid out his initial plan, with it being in a situation of actually less stability, he may have to recommend public sector cuts.
Yeah.
And if he comes out and says we're going to do public sector cuts, and still says, we're going to actually have to tax more than before.
Yeah, that's right.
I think his honesty may land him in trouble, because 100% Penny Mordaunt's not going to say that. I think she's going to try and retain some level of being attractive to Conservative Party members.
Yeah.
And if Sunak comes out and he's too honest about what actually has to happen, he just needs to come out and say, guys, I'm going to steady the ship. That's all he needs to come out and give that a sense of.
I think,
and if he does that, he'll win.
That's
correct. But if he comes out and he tries to be too smart and he tries to lay out what his genuine plan is before he's elected, he may suffer because he's been too honest, and he may not get what he wants.
However, there's also one other thing, and this may be one of the reasons why some of the people in Conservative don't want Mordaunt as well. When Jeremy Hunt became the Chancellor, everybody started talking about the fact that this budget was crap and that inflation was going to go through the roof. Yeah. Penny Mordaunt, who is part of the cabinet, normally when you're part of the cabinet, you don't go against government policy, you don't talk against the government. She came out with a statement, and she was the first one. She came out with a statement saying people who are on benefits should get a rise with inflation, or a significant rise. Whereas Liz Truss was saying she was willing to give a significant rise to pensioners, but she wasn't willing to give a big rise to people who are unemployed. Okay, and Penny Mordaunt actually came out against her publicly. And when she did that, quite a few Tories supported her, but I can imagine some Tories are frightened of her because she's too socially orientated in terms of trying to help the people who are the poorest. So that is something that some Tories will have a problem with.
Now, what about the other smaller candidates?
Well,
Ben Wallace's of the world.
Well, I don't think Ben Wallace. I don't think will stand. I don't think so. Grant Shapps won't stand. He won't stand because 100 MPs is a lot just to get through the first ballot.
It's a lot.
And so I don't think Ben Wallace will stand.
So
although
it's just
they'll
really
try
going
to
be Rishi Sunak and
Mordaunt. However,
and maybe Johnson.
Well, Johnson, if he puts his hat into the ring, he won't get the 100 votes, but he'll pull enough votes away from Mordaunt to make Sunak the PM. And if only one person can get 100 votes, they become PM. That's the rule. So let's say 20 people got in there. If one of them gets 100 votes and nobody else can, it's not like last time where they say, right, drop out the bottom 2 or 3 and
they just literally go for whoever can get 100.
Whoever gets 100, yeah. If you get 100,
that's a bit ridiculous.
You're into the next round.
Penny Mordaunt's going to be doing a lot of phone calls tonight.
Yeah, tonight and throughout the weekend.
And at the moment, just going to add it to his mailing list. Hey guys, I'm back.
Yeah, exactly. And at the moment,
Rishi for PM.
Of all the people, there's a list of MPs who have actually come out openly in favour of and said who they're going to vote for. And at the moment, Boris is second. Sunak is first by quite a long way. Boris is second and Mordaunt is third.
I mean, Sunak's a natural choice, isn't he?
I don't know. I don't know if it's a natural choice.
He is, because it's two sides of a coin, and one coin landed the wrong way, so he's on the other end. And he said, to be fair to him, what he said
predicted everything
happened.
Yeah, everything he said actually happened.
His economic plan was correct.
I mean, it's absolutely mad when you think about it. Here's a guy who's when was the last time a politician was that accurate about what was going to happen?
Yeah, but he was also Chancellor of the Exchequer.
Yeah, but even Chancellor of the Exchequers have failed to do stuff like that before.
But he only has to act on a short forecast. He knows, because they've been through the war, and he was Chancellor of the Exchequer when the war started. He knows what the forecasts are.
He also had been through the pandemic, so he understood.
Yeah, so he
all
only
these
needs
problems,
to know what the short-term forecasts are and what the best plan is in that time. He doesn't need to look at the long-term forecasts. So when he sets out his plan, he'll be correct, because he only needs to do it for the next 4 months, because he knows Liz Truss can get wrong. If Liz Truss goes the wrong way compared to the 4-month forecast, he knows it's going to cause instability.
I'll tell you something else that I think why some people in the Tory party are going to be fearful of Sunak. Okay, one is he can't be bought because he's richer than all of them.
That's true.
All right, he can't be bought. But secondly, I reckon if he actually becomes Prime Minister, and I think it's more likely with him even than Mordaunt, if he becomes Prime Minister, I reckon the people who are rich are going to have to pay more tax. He's going to force them to pay more tax. I think he will put...
I don't know. It's hard to say, because in the hustings, he wasn't really given it that too hard.
He was asked all these questions, and he said nothing is off the table.
There's some videos where he's gone to little private dinners and stuff, and he said to the guys, like, don't worry, we're not going to cut your tax. We're going to...
Well, I've not seen those, but maybe he's
I think basically now, given that impression.
But I don't think... I think now, given the situation we're in, I think... Of all the people who are being put forward, who would say, right, the rich have got to pay more, he's the one who would do it. And I think the other thing is that he will try to fight any cuts in the NHS.
Mm.
I think the NHS he will fight extremely hard not to put cuts on the NHS, harder than any of the other people, which causes a problem for all the other parts of the public services, because all of a sudden, because the NHS takes up a huge amount of money. It's a huge amount of money.
Yeah.
So if you're not going to do anything there, I mean, it wouldn't surprise me if he decides to actually, because one of the things that Liz Truss promised was a 3% increase in the defence spend. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
That has not been okayed yet by Hunt. So it's quite possible he might turn around and say, not going to be 3%, it's going to be 2.5%. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
we'll see what happens.
So, but I think that's one of the reasons why some of these Conservatives are frightened of him, because he could do that. He could do that. Whereas a lot of these other sort of potential candidates, they will be swayable.
Mm. I think we have to be a bit careful of Sunak. I think he talks a good game, but like I said, there have been some videos like
and
Tunbridge Wells. I think he said,
that's right. Tunbridge Wells
doing
something
thing
stupid.
I took Labour shoveled all the money to deprived urban areas. And I'm going to give it back to places that deserve it most.
Yeah, I think
something like that. He said
it's actually quite interesting what he said there. Yeah,
lines,
I remember what he said. I remember what he said. Basically, it came across in the video like he had taken places away from deprived areas that were Labour and put it into. Shifted the money towards
richer areas. Yeah.
No, not richer areas, to conservative areas. He said to your areas. Okay.
But Tunbridge Wells is known to be a really rich area.
Yeah, but it also has deprived elements, a bit like Hastings.
Yeah, but really,
so what
people know Tunbridge Wells.
So what he did was he changed a rule. He changed a rule, and that rule was how you determine a deprived area.
Right.
And that meant that areas that were originally being ignored suddenly got money.
Mm.
But the way he said it was so stupid.
Yeah,
he was trying to impress people. He was trying to impress people.
I guess it's a learning curve. We'll see. You know, I think that every MP should be taken with a pinch of salt.
Who do you think the Labour Party
want? Well, let's talk about the fourth alternative.
Well, the fourth alternative, what, a general election?
Keir Starmer.
Not going to happen.
Why not?
I don't think it's going to happen, because
a lot of people want one.
The whole country could want one, but guess what? When you vote in an election, you don't vote for a president, you don't vote for a prime minister, you vote for a party, and the party with the most votes in the House of Commons runs the country. That's how it works. And
In the simplest form, yes, but you vote for that party based on what they say they're going to do.
Yeah, which is
and
fine.
when they lie about everything they did, you can say, "Why have we given you that mandate?"
You might. I think the question. I don't think a chance of election.
I don't think that you should be allowed to hoodwink the nation.
No, but I think that there's no chance of a general election.
And this is a completely different. But this party is not the party it was when it was elected.
I don't dispute that, but the chances of a general election are zero. However, if they
that's because it's in the hands of Conservatives.
Yeah, exactly. However, if they mess up in the next 18 months, the next election, they will be wiped out forever. I mean, and by forever, I'm talking about at least 10 years. They will get a bigger hammering than the Labour Party got in the 2019 election. They will get a bigger hammering. I mean,
for sure,
there will be hardly any Conservatives left.
I mean, there's no credible candidates really, and this is the other thing. In a strange way, the only way the Conservative Party can hang on to what they have, I think, is if Rishi Sunak becomes Prime Minister.
Really?
Yeah, I think he's the only one.
You don't think Mordaunt is going to be able to reach all the parts of England?
No, I don't think so. I think Mordaunt can be a Prime Minister. I think she can be a Prime Minister, but I think she's not famous enough to win the next election.
Yeah, maybe there's not enough time for her to sort of get
there's not enough for her to establish herself. Whereas Rishi can go, I've been Chancellor of the Exchequer and got us through COVID.
Yeah.
And it's enough for him to say, and if he does steady the ship, which is obviously a test in itself.
If he sorts out the energy bills. I mean, I'll give you one.
He doesn't have to fix everything, but
energy bills are essential.
If he comes in and he says, it's going to be really hard, guys, and it is hard, and he continues to say, guys, it's going to be really hard.
Yeah.
And we will probably be accepting enough to say Liz Truss is a complete scapegoat.
Yeah.
And if he calls an election in the end of 2023 rather than 2025, and things have actually...
Oh, I don't think he'll call it that early.
If he calls it in the end of 2023 rather than 2025, I think there will not have been enough time for things to go dramatically wrong from when he gets office.
Yeah.
And I think he may be able to sneak a win on the Labour Party, especially because the Labour Party will not have the information that he has about what's happening with the economy.
No, but it's not just that.
They will be operating on forecasts that are not the best forecasts.
But no one's going to listen to those.
He will have a track record of success.
Yeah, but no one's going to listen to that stuff. I think that at the moment, the best policy for the Labour Party is just keep your mouth shut and let the Conservatives shoot themselves in the foot. Because that's what's been happening with Liz Truss. Think about it. When she actually became Prime Minister, one of the problems for the Labour Party was they had their conference and they're only about 5% in the lead in the polls. And that showed how Starmer was not appealing to the electorate.
Now he's 31%.
Yeah, now it's 31%. But he hasn't done anything. The Conservative Party has just shot itself in the foot. Liz Truss has blown it all up.
Yeah, but the difference is that
very
Liz
hard
Truss has blown up, but the next one will likely not blow themselves
up.
Yeah,
but it's very hard to win
I'm sure that if they do, that's
agreed. But it's very hard to get 31 points back at a time when we're going into a recession.
Yeah, but what Starmer needs to do is he needs to
keep his mouth shut and just let it happen.
Well, yeah, to a degree, but they also do need to show that they have plans. And
but he's refused to do that until it's nearer the election.
Yeah, and he's
refusing.
He's right actually, because there's so much instability in the economy at the moment. You don't know what's going to happen. I think it's fair for him to make some short-term goals and plans and just kind of have it in the background. And just say, this is what we're thinking. Like, if this happens with the economy, then we'll say this. If this happens with the economy, we'll say that. Because he's not a decision maker at the moment. At the end of the day, I know a lot of people
he gave his speech just before Liz Truss. Just before Liz Truss actually gave her resignation speech, he gave a speech to the TUC in which he claimed that the furlough scheme was the idea of the Labour Party, and if it wasn't for the Labour Party, the furlough scheme would not exist.
Yeah, I mean, they've not been around for 12 years, so he can say what he wants. But what I'm trying to say is that at the moment he's not a decision maker.
He can't affect anything.
He's just a shadow prime minister, really, at the end of the day.
Yeah, he is, yeah.
And all he needs to do is sit there and criticise Conservative Party as much as he can and try and say I've got a better plan. And
Yeah,
he has to say it in
he
a
has
way.
to have a plan, though.
He has to say it in a way that we actually believe him.
Yeah.
And ideally, he would have a couple of bullet points that he would be able to say to the nation to say, this is what I'm thinking. And as long as they're not radical, and as long as they make sense, most people will say, yeah, fine, he seems like a decent guy.
But one of the things is that if they are not radical and they make sense, and this is one of the things that Conservative Party, the
he's
right
going to run
wing,
a Conservative line by accident.
Yeah, he's going to become more Conservative than the Conservatives.
Yeah, he's going to run a Rishi line, because Rishi's very close to being centre.
Yeah, as is Penny Mordaunt. So both. So if either of those two get through, they're going to both basically do stuff that actually will force him to actually think more radically.
But the difference is that he doesn't need to worry about it this time.
What do you mean?
So in the last election, they had to worry about that. So they had to worry about the fact that they don't want to be the Conservative Party when they pitch their ideas. Whereas in this election, the general public's perception of the Conservative Party is so bad that all we see is a party in turmoil. We think that everyone's backstabbing each other all the time. No one has any faith in anyone else.
Agreed.
And actually, even if you ran a similar line to the Conservative Party, I think that with the Labour Party having effectively been silent for quite a year and a bit now,
that's right.
Everyone thinks that Labour Party is a singular party that has an idea. Yeah. Obviously, they're not. We know that they're not.
They've been very quiet.
We know that they're not, but they're quiet enough that we see them as a single entity.
Yeah.
We don't see them as Starmerites and Corbynites. And,
we don't see the crazies.
Whereas in the Conservative Party, we're thinking of Rishiites and Trussites and Mordaunts and Johnsonites. There's so many different divisions in the Conservative Party that the general public will go, why the hell are we voting for a party that's got 6 parties within it?
Yeah, exactly.
Why don't we just vote for, even if they've got all the same policies, why wouldn't we just vote for people who would agree with each other and do everything?
Who are properly united. So I don't see an election happening in the next 2 years, or in the next 18 months anyway.
I think we'll have one in the next 18 months.
You think?
I think so.
I think that I don't think the Conservative Party will make the mistake that Theresa May made. Theresa May, remember when she had a majority, and she decided to go for broke when she have an early election against when Corbyn had just been made leader, and she lost a majority.
Yeah, I can see one. If things go well, they
have to go tremendously well.
Yeah, if things go well, but I think if let's say Sunak becomes Prime Minister, even Mordaunt. If Mordaunt, I think she probably needs longer, but
Mordaunt would definitely need longer.
Mordaunt will probably need till 2024, late 2024, early 2025. But if Sunak becomes Prime Minister and things go well and he does steady the ship, I could see a general election next December.
Really? That close?
Yeah, that close.
Within a year?
I think that'll be enough time with the tabloids who are generally pro-conservative, who have a good foothold on this country in terms of what goes out, and enough of a change that people will start to unite behind Sunak.
The strange thing today is that tabloids have really turned against the Conservative Party.
Yeah, but that's because of the general public perception and the way things have happened. Yeah. But what I'm saying is, if Sunak comes in and steadies the ship, and mortgage rates go down, all these sorts of things. If mortgages become less expensive, people can live a little bit easier. If the cost of living
becomes easier, people aren't worried about heating costs.
And if he has a plan about electricity and gas.
And if he saves businesses, because businesses at the moment are really struggling.
Then I have a feeling that although public sectors will take a hit, because they know they're going to take a hit and they're going to blame it on Truss, in a year's time, if the Conservative Party is all backing him and agreeing with his plans, he'll actually have a strong position against Starmer.
Yeah, if he is able to,
and he'll be a much better orator a year later.
Yeah. If he's able to show that he can actually support the public services properly.
Yeah. Now whether he's brave enough to go for it, I don't know. We'll have to find out. It's Theresa May was obviously a brave one that she went.
Crazy one.
Yeah, she thought more of herself than
she was about 10 points. If I remember correctly, she was about 10, 20 points ahead, and she lost 25. It's unbelievable. Yeah. It's absolutely unbelievable.
She also said that she likes running around fields and stuff.
Yeah, so she made nonsense comments.
Was it the worst thing she's ever done? Ran through a field?
Ran through a field. I mean,
crazy.
Good grief. Okay.
I think we've covered
An
a
interesting
lot
topic.
of what's happened in the last 24 hours and probably last 4 weeks.
Less than 24 hours, really.
I'm surprised our podcast is not longer than Liz Truss's reign. We've done really well here to get through this much.
I know.
And yeah, I mean, I'm a bit worried about what's going to happen. I'm kind of intrigued at the same time.
I think it's going to be really interesting to see what happens on Monday. I mean, Monday is the big day. I think the whole world is going to be looking at what's going on Monday.
Yeah. And probably we'll follow this because
I think so. Yeah,
I like talking about it.
I think it's the opportunities of
it's a good
politicians.
therapy session for me. All my nerves are gone now because I get to spill them out to the world, and you can all tell us what you think.
Exactly.
So if you like what we're doing, like, comment, subscribe, and we'll see you in the next one. Bye bye.
Bye bye.